join us up here. Please join me. This is a historic moment with a bipartisan majority supporting the Iranian people. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairman. It is my great pleasure to introduce Congresswoman Deborah Ross from North Carolina. Thank you so much.
Well, what a wonderful and inspiring gathering. And I just want to also commend the leadership of Chairman McClintock. I am a proud co-sponsor of this resolution. I'm also particularly happy to be with you so close to International Women's Day. The women of Iran are a beacon and an inspiration to the world. And I want to share with you, I learned about the women of Iran when I was in college because one of my very best friends who I studied international relations with was a young woman from Iran. 4 daughters, unbelievable, all accomplished and wonderful people who came to the United States. But what Iranian women need is to feel safe and free in their own country as well. And so I want to thank you. I am with you in solidarity and for the entire fight with my colleagues here in Congress. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Congresswoman Ross. Our next speaker is Congressman Sessions from Texas. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Good morning. And for those of you who brought the red eye in this morning, welcome to Washington, D.C. The opportunity for you to be with us and us to be with you is important to the people who stand behind me, but more importantly, to the people who have been making sure that you heard the message of who really believes that this is an important issue. We do. We believe it's an important issue, and the United States of America and the world learned a lot about this nation back in 1979. But the Revolutionary Guard and the revolution that this country in 1979 took on is one of terrorism and repression. They're one of killing their own people, and any group of people that would kill their own people is a threat to the world. So the opportunity for you to be here today comes as a result of lots of hard work that has been done with and on your behalf in Washington, D.C. We recognize how important freedom is, for we too had to fight for those freedoms in this country. But the opportunity that you bring to us means that across this country, there are not just ideas of protest, there are ideas of standing up for what is good and right. And in Texas, we do the same thing. Randy Weber and I have taken part of these things as they have taken place in Dallas, in Houston, and across our state. The vision of freedom is a powerful vision, but more importantly, we recognize this is being done to help people back home. The internal struggle that is taking place inside Iran is very important for you and for them to know that there are people who care. It's easy to say that America is the greatest nation in the world. But America, by being the greatest nation in the world, it means that we have to count on and support others who are doing the exact same thing. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for telling your story. Thank you for being involved, and perhaps more importantly, if we work together, we will succeed. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Congressman Sessions. It is now my great pleasure to introduce Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who has taken on such a strong leadership role in support of Iranian women in U.S. Congress. Please welcome Congresswoman Mace. Thank you very much. Thank you. And good morning. Good morning.
Thank you. And I want to thank the women who are here this morning for risking your lives, really, just to have the basic human rights that every person in the world deserves. And being up here with members of Congress from both sides of the aisle, Republicans and Democrats alike, we're showing our strength, because when America is strong, the world is strong. And when we fought for our freedom, there were other countries, and particularly France, who helped us fight for our freedom, fight for our republic, fight for our liberties, fight for democracy. And so this morning, you're seeing us up here in a bipartisan way, our country, standing with those in Iran who want those same freedoms, who want those same liberties, who want the same kind of democracy. And so we support a democratic process in Iran. We support your freedom. We support your fight. You've literally risked your lives for this freedom. And we stand with you. The women in Congress on both sides of the aisle, we stand with you. You are our sisters in this fight, and we want to be there for you. So we thank you for being here with us today. God bless you, and we're going to be with you. Good morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Congresswoman Mace. We really appreciate your leadership, and you're absolutely right, the fight for Republic Iran. So it's my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, someone who's been fighting with us from the days of Ashraf and has been standing on the side of the Iranian people and the democratic, non-nuclear, secular Republic Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Weber from Texas.
Well, it's pretty much all been said, so are there any questions? So, it is an absolute pleasure to be here, to stand with my colleagues here in solidarity, as has been said, for Iran, the people of Iran, the women of Iran. And I tell you what is it, 223 co-sponsors on the bill now, Tom? So let's give him a hand, can we, Chairman McClintock? As my good friend Pete Sessions said, we've been fighting for this in Texas, going to different things. And I will tell you that, for y'all's information, 223 in Texas is the size of a rifle. I'm just saying, 223, that's right. So what we need is a rifle shot. There's some folks over in Iran that don't exactly play by the rules, and they need to be taken out. What do y'all think? You betcha, you betcha, you betcha. We find out, and we fought for freedom in Texas, didn't we, Pete? We absolutely did. In fact, we just had Texas Independence Day on March the 2nd, just last week, a week ago today. Isn't it time for an Iranian Independence Day? What do you think? Huh? You bet. You bet. So thank God for Miriam Rajabi. Can we give her a hand and her 10-point plan? You betcha. You betcha. You betcha. That's right. That's absolutely right. Well, I've already gone to preaching, and I hadn't even stuck with my notes. So I tell you what, it's a great joy for me to be here. And you're right, we've been fighting. I was on the Foreign Affairs Committee for 4 years. Starting in 2013, we've been fighting for a long time. I've watched this for a long time. You all know about the Green uprising in 2009. America should have been on board then, but I will tell you this. We are on board now. And that's what matters. Think of a regime that is so brutal to its own citizens, and I can't even remember all the numbers of people that have disappeared, that have been killed, imprisoned. It's unbelievable. It's mind-boggling. This time for us to get involved. I'm so glad that the United States Congress has stepped up and said, we're behind you all the way. This has got to stop. And I'll take a little bit of a left turn here. How about we do away with the JCPOA? Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. So we love the 10-point plan. We want to free Iran. We're so thankful for Mayor Rajavi, what she's doing, and how you all been following her and supporting her, and actually coming out in the open, because you have to know there's some threat there. There's absolutely some danger there. So y'all are taking the stand. People are encouraged by what y'all are doing. I hope that people are encouraged by what we're doing, guys, saying that America is standing for a free Iran that's nuclear-free, that's democratic, that, by the way, could be governed by the first female president in Iran's history. What do y'all think? Huh? No more evil tyrants, right? Not in Iran. They've got to go. This is evident in this is the time for the revolution. This is the day. This is the cause. The United States is with you. The world is watching. We are all with you. It's evident in the slogan, quote, "Death to the dictator, be it the Shah or the leader." What do y'all think? Well, I could go on and on, but it's going to be lunchtime if I keep going at this rate. You know what? It's worth it. Whatever price, whatever time, whatever investment it takes. Let's take back Iran for the people of Iran, indeed for the world. Let's get it done. Thank you, Miriam Rajavi, for being here, for doing what you're doing. Thank you all for being here. God bless Iran, and God bless you all.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear from the members of Congress, Congressman Sessions, Chairman McClintock, and Congressman Weber. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
One more picture. One more picture.
I think so, yes.
Okay. One more picture, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, on behalf of the Iranian American communities, Organization of Iranian American Communities, again, I want to thank all of the Iranian leaders who are here today. Of course, we are very, very honored with such a strong bipartisan support and the members of Congress who will continue to join us in this briefing today. We are recognizing an unprecedented milestone this morning, reaching a bipartisan majority as Chairman McClintock said, absolute majority within 6 weeks is historic for U.S. Congress, and it is a bipartisan majority. So this House Resolution 100 is titled Expressing Support for the Iranian People's Desire for a Democratic, Nuclear, Non-Nuclear Republic Iran, and Iranian people's desire for democracy, condemning the violations of human rights, state sponsor of terrorism by the Iranian government. Just to share with you a few facts about this resolution, as I said, is quite historic, just for the amount of time that to gain the House majority. We have to remember there are 11 committee chairs who have co-sponsored this resolution, including the two very powerful leadership majority from appropriation committees and the select intelligence. Those are the chair of the committees who have sponsored this resolution. Of course, we must say that there are many ranking members who are among the co-sponsors of this resolution, and that really speaks to the true nature of the bipartisan congressional resolution of House H.R. 100. There are 28 members of Foreign Affairs Committee who have sponsored this important policy-focused resolution, and there are over 60 subcommittee chairs among the sponsor of House Resolution 100. Also, let me share with you, as I was looking at the signatories of this resolution, there are it has the support of the Women's Caucus, Hispanic Caucus, of course, Iran Human Rights Caucus, and I'm especially proud to see that there are sponsors on this resolution that represents 40% of women in U.S. House of Representatives. That is quite remarkable, especially as we celebrate International Women's Day in 2023. I want to call out a couple of important points of the House Resolution 100. The House Resolution 100 really recognizes the ongoing protests inside Iran. It recognizes the protests that began in 2017 that reached in more than 100 cities. Of course, the Iranian regime suppressed the protests through its repressive forces that resulted in 25 deaths and more than 4,000. It also recognizes the uprising of 2019, the popular uprising that reached over 160 cities, and this resolution recognizes that. And it also talks about the 1,500 innocent, unarmed protesters that were killed in the streets that included women and children. And of course, the Iranian regime responded with more repressive forces and oppression. But that did not deter the people of Iran. Because as we saw in September of 2022, with the death of Mahsa Amini, the brutal murder of Mahsa Amini, that became a trigger for a non-stop protest in Iran across the country in the last 6 months. The Iranian people have spoken, and they want this regime gone, and the enduring protests inside Iran speaks to that. And that is why we have the House majority support for more than 225 members of Congress in a bipartisan fashion today. So the other aspect of the House resolution also really takes into account the women's role in these protests. As we just heard from the members of Congress, women and youth have led the 2022 protests in Iran and continue to lead that protest. And they're demanding social freedoms, political changes, and as Congresswoman May said, they are fighting for a republic Iran. The House majority also, with this resolution, supports the protest that is rooted in more than 4 decades of organized resistance against the Iranian dictatorship, which have been most recently led by women who have endured torture, sexual and gender-based violence, and death. And again, we just heard from our members of Congress really praising the bravery and courage of Iranian women. I think it's also important to note, as Congresswoman Mace and Congresswoman Ross said, the women of Iran have displayed such a courage that has been an inspiration for the world. I want to also recall the message that Congressman Weber shared with us. The protest inside Iran, he even recited the chants in Iran, really speaks to denouncing dictatorship of the past and the dictatorship of today. When they chant, down with the dictators, be it the Shah or Mullah. This House resolution takes into account the brutal human rights violations and the continued executions and brutality that has taken place in the last 4 decades against the people of Iran, particularly the political prisoners. It does take into account the massacre of 1988, when more than 30,000 political prisoners were executed because of the fatwa that was issued by Khomeini at the time. It does encourage the administration to convene an emergency session, just as it did in House Resolution 752, that UN Security Council to work with United States and its partners and the allies to condemn the ongoing human rights violations perpetrated by the Iranian regime and establish a mechanism by which the UN Security Council can monitor such violations. Ladies and gentlemen, that is so important today because we are now witnessing the chemical attacks on the schoolgirls across Iran. More than 25 states of 31 provinces in Iran are now dealing with the attacks that is condoned and is happening under the watch of the current regime. And the only person that's responsible for this is Ali Khamenei and his entire regime, who must be held accountable. The resolution also calls that on United Nations Human Rights Council to establish a fact-finding mission to conduct an independent investigation to ongoing violence in Iran since September of 2022. This resolution also calls on UN Economic Social Council and really praises the administration for taking the lead in expelling Iran from the Commission on Status of Women. It was such an affront to defense of women's rights and human rights to have such a misogynist regime in the UN Commission on Status of Women. So with that, I just highlighted a few items that I think is super important when it comes to the House Resolution 100. What I see is that we have it's my great pleasure to introduce our dear friend, the main sponsor from the Democratic side, Congressman Brad Sherman, who has been with us from day one as he was holding the Iranian regime's propaganda against the opposition accountable, holding the State Department to account in defining the right policy on Iran. And of course, he's been speaking out on the issue of democracy, human rights, and women's rights in Iran for years. Please welcome Congressman Brad Sherman.
Hello, I'm Brad Sherman from California's best named city, Sherman Oaks. I join you today at an important time in Iran as people from one end of the country to the other rise up to demand their rights and demand a peaceful, democratic Republic of Iran. Began most with the brutal death of let's see if I get the pronunciation somewhat right. Masha Jina Amani. But this is, some of you have been working for a democratic Iran since the 1970s. I've been working on it since the 1980s. We have seen, however, women take the lead, and this is an appropriate day to recognize their role. And we've seen, we don't know exactly what has caused the poisoning of women at schools around Iran. We don't know the proximate cause, but we know who created the atmosphere in Iran that regards it as okay to go try to kill women and young girls because they're seeking an education. And so we have a resolution that I'm told now has 223 co-sponsors. That's a majority of the House. 75 Democrats. Okay. Tom did even better. He got more Republicans. But a wide range of members. I mean, you don't hang out in Washington on all the different issues. Brad Sherman to Tom McClintock is a wide range of members. The resolution recognizes Miriam Rajavi as one of the women who has been a leader in fighting for democracy in Iran, and it commemorates a whole new generation of women who are fighting. The regime has continued its violent attacks against protesters and anyone who dares to dissent. including the horrific killing of over 500 innocent protesters, many of whom were teenagers and even children. Tens of thousands have been arrested and some sentenced to death. The regime's legacy of murdering dissidents is nothing new and has been used as a tactic for decades to stifle the Iranian people's fight for freedom. This, of course, includes the brutal murders of thousands of dissidents during the 1988 massacre perpetrated by regime officials, now including President Raisi. I know that many Iranian Americans, including those in this room, fled Iran to escape this kind of repression, but never stopped dreaming of a day when you could visit a peaceful and democratic country. This regime's violence may indicate its weakness. It lashes out with violence because it doesn't have an argument, doesn't have a basis to acquire the people's support. I share your dream of a free Iran, an Iran where Iranians can make their voices heard without the threat of imprisonment, torture, rape, and execution. An Iran where women are free to choose how they dress and people are free to choose their own government. An Iran where Masha Amini, I'm sorry for them, and countless women like her would still be alive. That's why, and as I said, I don't do it all the time, but I reached across the aisle to work with Tom McClintock. He and I go back in California politics about 40 years. This may be the one thing we're working on together on the same side. In any case, I know you have one of the downsides of having over 218 co-sponsors is I don't get to speak as long as I want to because you have all these other members of Congress, including Sheila Jackson Lee, here to speak to you. So I'll just say, women, life, freedom. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank Congressman Brad Sherman as part of the OYAC Youth Chapter in California for his introduction of this amazing House Resolution 118, which has a House majority support. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Congressman Sherman, for your continued support and for your continued leadership to work on the issue of Iran in a bipartisan fashion. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so proud and so privileged to introduce the next member of Congress, a woman who's been fighting on many, many fronts, including our cause, a woman that has called Maryam Rajavi her sister, a woman that has been standing with us, calling on all of us not to give in, not to give up, and not to give out. Please welcome the very special Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
My sisters. So delighted to be here with Brad Sherman and to be one of the original co-sponsors or strong, repetitive co-sponsors of HRES 100 and to be with an array of members who are coming one after another, my colleagues, my friends on both sides of the aisles, because we know what this is all about, that we will never give up on Iranian freedom. We will never stop. We will always fight. We will fight until Iran is free and free for everyone, for the women of Iran, for the children of Iran, for the men and families of Iran. And so I've come this morning to be able to reaffirm my knowledge and visit of those whose bodies we have lost, whose persons are no longer here, who may be lost, to be reminded of our fight for so long for the people in Camp Ashraf, not getting medicine, not getting ability to see their loved ones. We stood with you on that fight. We've not given up. And we had hoped and prayed that as those brave women, young women, went into the streets, our sister, who did not deserve to die, who simply might have had the offense of the values cops, as I would call them, non-value cops, and she has lost her life. This is the week that we honor women in the International Women's Day. But when I speak of women, I speak of humanitarians. I speak of freedom fighters. I speak of those who are unceasing in their belief of a free Iran. I speak of those who love children and nurture them and give them their day in the sun. And then I speak of Madam the President. I am speaking in the tone that I want to speak. I know her name very well. I am looking to Madam the President, the freedom fighter. And today we honor this president. Miriam, we honor you. Madam Rajavi, we honor you today. Long before anyone would listen, I'm very grateful that her plan calls for the universal right to vote, free elections, and a market economy, and advocates gender, religious, and ethnic equality. She calls for the abolition of the Sharia law and the death penalty. She calls for a foreign policy based on peaceful coexistence and a non-nuclear republic, Iran, based on separation of religion and state. Who can reject that? The Constitution of our great nation, America, indicates that we have the freedom of religion and speech and moving around and access and association. No nation is perfect. But how grateful we are to have a visionary who way in front, so much so that they called her a terrorist. Thank goodness I was on the right side of that, and that is no longer the case. She is a freedom fighter. We fought against that. And so if my voice can be heard to the souls in Iran, we honor you. If young women are hearing me, if young men are hearing me, families and children, look at the array of outstanding Iranian Americans, the Iranian diaspora. They are with you. You are not alone. They're in this room. They're in the capital of the United States. They are welcomed here. They are petitioning their government. They're being heard. And you should take comfort that these brave souls are in this room and the Iranian diaspora are standing with them all over the nation. And I want to warn the leadership of Iran, you will not cause us to abandon Ukraine. No matter how many drones you give to Russia, both of you will be defeated. I am a peaceful person. I believe in nonviolence. I'm a student by his words of Dr. Martin Luther King when we fought for civil rights in this nation. His message was nonviolence. I hope we come to a point that peaceful protests will vindicate and warrant a new government, that lives will not have to be lost. But as we move to that, again, let me acknowledge those brave souls who've gone into the street. They are the young of our country, your country, Iran. And we must honor them, pray for them, and respect that they have listened to Madam Rajavi. And today, as we honor this International Women's Day, I'm delighted that Congresswoman Mace was here. We will be putting in place the Congressional Iranian Women's Caucus for all to see. I look forward to chairing the caucus, for you to have a place for panels and programs. Men, you're welcome too. But we will talk about the long history of this great Persian nation and the role that women have played. So it is my honor to come here today to be able to welcome you to your government, where you freely are able to petition under the flag of the United States and the United States Constitution. And I wish for Iran, as you keep the fight going, that you will be able to return to your soil, your land of your birth and your family's birth, and you will come freely with that flag, and you will be living under the freedom that Madam Rajavi has spoken of, and we will all join hands, and we'll use the old phrase here in the United States: we have overcome. Iran is free. 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 Thank you all so very much. Iran is free. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Can I ask you to stand with all members of Congress for a minute? Please join me. Ladies and gentlemen, we just heard from Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, and we have another delegations of members of Congress. These are the leaders of Iranian American communities thanking you for your bipartisan support for House Resolution 100. Thank you. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. We also always appreciate your leadership and support. And I am so proud to hear that we will have an Iranian Women's Caucus in U.S. Congress. So thank you for your leadership on that. As
I go, and a non-nuclear Iran.
That's right. Non-nuclear, secular Republic Iran. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our dear friend, someone who has been very, very supportive on the issue of Iran's democracy movement. He's been with us in various rallies in front of the U.S. Congress. He's spoken to many of our activists. Please welcome Congressman Don Bacon.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey, welcome to the U.S. House. Welcome to the People's House. You know, as a Christian, I do pray that one day that Iran will be free, that the people will have a government that protects them and serves them, and not the other way around. And it make the world a better place when this happens. The current government of Iran abuses its people, takes away the freedoms, does not respect human dignity, conflicts with its neighbors. It is a threat to the region and the world. And the people of Iran are paying the price the most. So I stand with the Iranian people that we want freedom, we want democracy, we want human rights. All the things that Madam Rajavi has said, President Rajavi has said, those are the principles that America stands by. And it's our hope that one day the Iranian people will also have that. We hope someday that you have a people's house in Tehran, right? So I don't always agree with Congresswoman Shirley Jackson Lee, but boy, she was on target today. This is a bipartisan thing that to stand by the people of Iran. I know the Iranian people are peace-loving. They are friendly. We should have a common friendship with Americans and Iranians. It is the tyrannical regime that stands in the way. And so I stand with the people that are revolting right now, and I just cannot believe the terrible things that we've heard this week with the Iranian government attacking girls' schools, poisoning young girls. That shows you the nature of the government. So I will keep my comments short because I will be repeating what others have said, but I do stand with you. We want freedom, democracy, human rights, a non-nuclear Iran that's friends with its neighbors and at peace with its neighbors. I salute you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congressman Bacon. Our next speaker I'm very, very pleased to introduce our next speaker, Chair of the Albanian Caucus, a dear friend to our community, to the issue of human rights and democracy in Iran. Please welcome Congressman Robert Aderot.
Well, good morning. It's great to be here, and wow, great crowd. I didn't know what to expect when I got the invitation to come over here, but this is everybody's so energized and just so excited. And I think the reason everybody's so excited about today is to borrow, Congressman Sheila Jackson Lee had mentioned was quoting Martin Luther King. I think everybody in this room has a dream of when Iran will be free. And let's. And I was happy to lend my support and to be a co-sponsor of HRS 100, and simply expressing that the United States Congress goes on record saying that we support the people's desire to be free in Iran, and not only to be free, but to be democratic, to be secular, to be non-nuclear, and to be allow people of all faiths to practice their religion and their faith as they see fit, and to make sure that they have the freedoms that we can enjoy and take for granted so much in this country. And I just want to take a minute. It was pointed out that I am chair of the Albanian Caucus. I know that Albania has been a great friend to Iran, or to those that want to see a new Iran, and for their support. So I just want to say thank you to the Albanian government for their support, and want to do everything I can to encourage them to support Iran, a free Iran, and to make sure that they send that message. And what is so ironic about Albania is Albania has such a background of being such a closed country under the communist days, but now it is now open, it is free, and it is supporting countries like Iran, or supporting those that want to see a free Iran. And so I want to just say thank you to the Albanian government for their support, and we want to. And like I said, I know that you've got a lot of speakers here this morning, and it just proves the point that the United States of America is on the side of a free Iran, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that we see the day, and that will not only be a dream, but it'll be a reality that we see a free and prosperous Iran. So thank you, and God bless.
Thank you very much. As we have leaders of Iranian American communities here, please note that our organization has chapters across 40 states, and as you can see, the flags of each of the states where we have representation of Iranian American communities. The House majority HRS 100 support is really the hard work of the Iranian American communities and their members of Congress. So it's my great pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Congressman Glenn Grothman from Wisconsin. Please help me welcome Congressman Grothman.
Well, I'm honored to be here and so glad to see so many people who dream and to work for a day when Iran can be free again. I think a lot of people, when I think of, what throughout so much of history has been called Persia, I think of a great country that the rest of the world looked to and followed, and was really a leader, like I said, a light in that part of the world. Right now, we do not have a government emphasizing freedom, and it must be very difficult at all times, horribly difficult, to say that unless you do what the government wants, we will come down on you and suppress you. And I emphasize, I'm also a co-sponsor of HRS 100, and I hope one more time in the near future we see Persia be what Persia has been in the past, a modern state dedicated to the improvement of its citizens, in which they are not able to use the absolute power of the state to crack down on people who have different views than a small segment which is using that state just to promote themselves for their own personal gain. And I assure you, people are praying for that day in America, praying for that day when Persia will return to what it once was. I'm glad you're here. Hope you familiarize yourself with American history, right? And America became the great country we are by being a moral and religious people. And sometimes we're getting away from that right now, which is a problem we have here, a little bit of a moral decline in the United States right now. We got to somehow get back on the straight and narrow here. But we are very supportive of the people in Persia who want a free country, a free republic, built on a constitution that guarantees freedoms, and a people who respect that constitution. And Iran will one more time be a light, not only in that part of the world, but over the whole world, like it has been through so much of its history. So I'd like to thank you for all being here, and hopefully this time next year we can meet and congratulate you on the new Iran.
Thank you so much, Congressman, and we can't wait for that day. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce a very dear friend, someone who's been with us for so many years on many, many issues, has some very deep reach and connection with the Iranian communities back in his home state. Please help me welcome Congressman Dr. Ruiz.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see many of you again. I want to thank Ashi and Albers for being such great friends and for always keeping me informed of not only the atrocities that occur in Iran, but also the hope and dignity of the people who want to live free. I'm here to tell you that we have 225 members of Congress who are in support of Res 100, which is expressing support for the Iranian people's desire for a democratic, secular, and non-nuclear Republic of Iran, and condemning the violations of human rights and state-sponsored terrorism by the Iranian government. It is very appalling and heartbreaking to hear the stories of young girls who have been poisoned in schools and public places. It is clearly evident that the young girls are leading this movement in Iran, speaking up and demanding recognition, demanding their rights as people, as humans. And it is clear that this poisoning is a signal that they're sending to the rest of the Iranian people that if you speak up, we will come after you in the most horrible of ways. But I do believe that there is resilience. See, there's grit, there's determination, there is hope. Because if one thing that moves the human spirit and the human soul, regardless of which country you're from, it's freedom. And we have seen the world change because of people's desire for freedom. So I stand with the people who seek freedom, who seek human rights, and I stand with you. So thank you very much for your steadfast support. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Congressman Raul Ruiz from on behalf of the OYAC Youth Chapter of California. He spoke about grit and resilience, and we see that in every single Iranian inside Iran fighting for freedom. So thank you so much, Congressman. Appreciate it so much. Thank you. The efforts that have led us to gain the majority in the House are because of the efforts of over 40 states, daily activities of all of you guys, working with your congressmen, working with your representatives for a free, democratic, and secular non-nuclear Republic of Iran. Today we see House Res 100, have over 223 co-sponsors in over 50 days, which is absolutely unprecedented. So I'd just like to thank all of you for your great determination in bringing this about. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. And thank you so much to Congressman Ruiz for his continued support on human rights and democracy in Iran. We just heard from very strong messages from members of Congress on both sides of the aisle in reflecting their opinion on House Resolution 100. The absolute majority of the U.S. House of Representatives. I just want to share with you, as this resolution concludes, it reads as such. Resolved that the House of Representatives, 1, condemns past and present Iranian state-sponsored terrorist attacks against United States citizens and officials, as well as Iranian dissidents, including the Iranian regime's terror plot against the Free Iran 2018, the alternative gathering in Paris. 2, it calls on relevant United States government agencies to work with European allies, including those in the Balkans, where Iran has expanded its presence to hold Iran accountable for breaching diplomatic privileges, and to call on the nations to prevent the malign activities of Iranian regime's diplomatic mission, with the goal of closing them down and expelling its agent. The importance of this particular recommendation by the U.S. House of Representatives is because the Iranian regime uses its embassies to not only spy on dissidents, but also plot terror and terrorist acts against the opposition. And it's so important to really deal with this issue, and that's why this House resolution calls on all U.S. allies to shut down the Iran's embassies and really expel the agents of the Iranian regime because they use the diplomatic cover to conduct terrorist activities. Number 3, stands with people of Iran who are legitimately defending their rights for freedom against repression and condemns the brutal killing of Iranian protesters by the Iranian regime. And finally, number 4, recognizes the rights of the Iranian people and their struggle to establish democratic, secular, non-nuclear Republic of Iran. I really do want to congratulate all of the members who have co-sponsored this resolution, and also the Iranian American community leaders that are here today. And their flag of their state is on display. It's the very last recommendation on this resolution is critical for the people of Iran. We just heard from Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee as she was sending a message to people inside Iran. And she was essentially telling them not to give up, not to give in, because of the presence of you here in U.S. Congress, because you're echoing the voice of the Iranian people. And I think we are comforted by the fact that the U.S. Congress recognizes the Iranian people's right to overthrow this regime. Iranian people deserve and reserve the right to overthrow this regime. And this is what the House Resolution 100 stands on, with the absolute majority from both parties. And it stands with the people of Iran and their call for democratic, secular Republic Iran. So with that, we are still waiting for a few members of Congress to join us. So please just bear with us as we're expecting more members joining us. And I see that we have our dear friend who just joined us today. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so proud to introduce our next speaker, And we are so happy to have him with us today, Chairman of the Middle East Subcommittee from South Carolina. Please welcome Congressman Joe Wilson.
Thank you. God bless. Thank you.
And it'd be great if you could recognize.
No, God bless.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, and friends of the people of Iran, it's such an honor to be here. And I always like to remind Iranian Americans how special you are. When I got married, the very first couple that I saw, when my eyes refocused after the wedding, were Ali and Ezzat Davani. And so Iranian Americans have been special in my life. And then we've had a wonderful staff person, Karen Karami. So Iranian Americans working in the U.S. Congress, what a difference you make. But the Iranian American community, what a difference you make to influence in a very positive way the elected officials of the United States. But you're also such an inspiration to the people of Iran. And then this year is so different even from last year, and that is the uprising of 2023. What this means is that the people of Iran are standing up. And you need to be understanding, too, this is really part of a worldwide situation, a global situation. It's a conflict and competition between democracies, rule of law, being opposed by authoritarians with rule of gun. And so, and the people of the world, I believe, are going to choose the democratic path, small d Democrat path. And so when I've had the opportunity to be in Kyiv, Ukraine, to see the brave people there resisting war criminal Putin and his conduct, and what an indication of resolve. And then to see in all the places with the Chinese Communist Party, the resolve of people within the People's Republic of China, and then the resolve, as we see, of the people of Taiwan. But obviously, it's a trifecta, and it comes back to Tehran. And what a message, the courage of the people of Iran. And we just want the best of a country that has been so important in world history, been so important in the culture that we have adopted. As I visit around the world, and I've just gotten back from leading a delegation of the Helsinki Commission to Rome, and what a chilling, not a chilling, but what a humbling reminder. Everything that we think of old in America is brand new, and indeed the contributions of the people of Iran to world history are so important, and they must be restored. And so I want to thank you for what you're doing. And another indication of how special you are, I was actually at a meeting of the education workforce last night, voting on different issues until 2 o'clock in the morning. And so, but y'all are special because I was going to be here first before I went to other meetings. And again, thank you for what you are doing for the people of Iran. And we just want to give encouragement to them to provide for the success. But their success, again, is part of sadly, a worldwide competition. And we know, hey, I love this too. Okay, we understand. Democracy is the worst system there is, except for all the others. And so, hey, it's not perfect. It was interesting. I was at a meeting on behalf of the British American Trade Association. They were talking about their government being wobbly, and I thought, yeah, you had a wobbly government, but you're back on track. And then just to see over and over success around the world. I'm just, but it takes time. And hey, I'm still a cold warrior. I get excited when I go to countries that were not free. For example, Bulgaria. I was an election observer in Bulgaria in June 1990, and it was so sad when I got there. It was like going back to the 1930s. Something that I can identify. When I got there, a service station looked like an outhouse with a pump out front, and a line of cars a mile long because there was no gas. And then I found out they weren't cars. They were two-stroke motorcycle engines with plastic covers, Russian Ladas and East German Trabants. And so now when I go to Bulgaria, it's a Circle K with the Wendy's, or maybe a BP with a Burger King. And so a modern country, and the same thing, I'm confident, will return to Iran. And then I was really grateful just in the past month to be in Prague, Czech Republic. Again, a country that 30 years ago was still under the influence of the Soviet tanks that had invaded the country 30 years prior to that, 20 years prior to that. So the bottom line is we can be so hopeful. And then a fun opportunity for me to visit the Baltic republics, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. They had 70 years of Soviet occupation. But they never gave up. I can remember when I was in college, I saw the Lithuanian legation here, and I thought, what is this? That's not a country. Yes, it is, and yes, it was. And America never recognized the occupation by the Soviet Union of the Baltic republics, and now they're free. And if you ever have a chance to visit, if you want to see dynamic countries, it's the Baltic republics. And now in NATO, an unintended consequence of war criminal Putin, now Sweden and Finland are part of NATO. Who would ever imagine giving up 200 years of neutrality and the success of the people of Finland? They've actually defeated, as an indication of a smaller country can win. They actually stopped the invasion of the Soviets in 1939. So we can repeat history in a positive way. I want to thank you again and also extend an invitation. As you're visiting on Capitol Hill, next door to the Longworth House office building, please come by room 1436. And all you have to do is, so Joe said, come by. And so, and Ray knows how to get to the office blindfolded. But anyway, y'all come by and just say that, and they'll take you to the window and get a picture with the dome of the Capitol on your shoulder. So, hey, you're standing for freedom, you're standing for opportunity, and particularly for the young people of Iran. They need to have a positive future, and you're making a difference. God bless you. God bless Iran. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Congressman Wilson. You spoke about the history of repression in other countries, and you spoke about how democracy always wins. It's noteworthy to mention that Iran has been struggling for democracy in the last 100 years, more than 100 years, under both the dictatorship of the monarchy and now the dictatorship of the theocracy. So, but this time the Iranian people have a very clear sight on what they want, which is a republic Iran, which is something that's been reflected in House Resolution 100. And I think, as Congressman Weber mentioned, when the slogans inside Iran says, down with the dictators, be it the Shah or Mullah, it really speaks to the generations of Iranian in the last 100 years who have fought for democracy and freedom. They are moving forward. They're not looking backward. And they are not going to let down until they reach an Iranian republic. And as the House Resolution majority mentions, it is a non-nuclear, secular Iranian republic. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are still expecting a couple more members to join us, so just bear with us as we will resume in a few minutes as the members walk in. Thank you. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining us this morning. I think we are going to be closing our event this morning. Once again, congratulations on such a significant historic milestone by reaching a House majority within 6 weeks, which is, as I mentioned earlier, unprecedented and is all due to the hard work of the Iranian American communities and their members of Congress. Congratulations, everyone, and thank you again for joining us this morning.
لطفاً چون اتاق کمیته هستش هیرینگه لطفاً سریع